Welcome back to Coach Talk. Here's LJ.
Good morning, Dave. How are you? Thanks for that. Just throw me in the deep end. I love it.
I've been thinking about this for a while.
Hi,
I was
everyone.
just going to spring it on you and just go blah. And here you are. And I thought, I'll just see how you go with that. And so let's do that. Here's LJ. It's your turn.
Welcome to Coach Talk, everybody. It's great to be back for another episode. I really appreciate you tuning in and having a great conversation with us. And we hope that what we talk about helps you talk about things in your world too.
Absolutely. So what would you like to talk about today?
I've got a really cool topic. Well, I think it's a really cool topic. I would like to talk about how curiosity opens doors.
Yeah. You know what? You sprung this on me literally about 10 seconds ago.
I did.
I love that as a topic. Curiosity opens doors.
One thing, it's really great being around kids, and kids at Christmas time, they always, what are you doing for Christmas and what do you hope Santa brings you? Kids have this most beautiful perspective, and as a child, they ask lots of questions, and as adults, we tend to shut their questions down. Yeah. When realistically, we need to be embracing the questions. And even as adults, how amazing would it be if we were more curious about each other rather than about what's going on in our world? This kind of follows on from what we've been talking about last session with the gratitude and asking questions. Yeah. How amazing is it when you get in a room full of people or an elevator or a stairwell or a shopping centre or a coffee shop, we're back to coffee, where you can actually say, how's your day going? Tell me something good. And invite somebody into your space to share a kind word, a gesture, and just to make them feel important and valued. You never know where that conversation is going to lead. And I have to say, it has been the most beautiful step forward in some of the friendships that I've formed, especially in the last couple of years, the deep and meaningful conversations with people that have started out very organically and natural and on the surface and ended up becoming some of the inner circle people and people that I can rely on for advice or business perspective, or just to know that they're in your world. You just never know where your curiosity is going to take it. And I wanted to talk about why curiosity can open doors.
I love that. I really like this topic. This is something that resonates with me a lot. And you know that you and I, coming from a coaching background, we quite easily are curious and we ask people quite easily how, why, when, where, who. It's just the way we are built because we use that curiosity in our coaching system. So we enjoy that, and I watched you a couple of nights ago at the white party we talked about in the last podcast, and the way you were talking to people that you hadn't met before, you engaged with them really easily because you were asking curious questions, and they were happy to answer and have a bit of a laugh and engage, and it's a great way to build rapport.
Yeah, I love talking to people, and I love people sharing their experiences and a little bit about their world together. It's amazing that you find things in common with people you didn't even know, and in the most unexpected places.
Have you come across people in your world that are, I'll call them I people?
Yes.
They start every sentence with I. It doesn't matter what. And I've got people I've dealt with. You talk to them on the phone or you talk to them in public, and anything you say, they'll come back with I, which can drain the conversation a little bit, I feel. Instead of being curious and asking questions about them or a circumstance or an event, it's just I. And if you are the person, or if I'm the person that starts with I, it changes the dynamic of the conversation.
It almost pre-frames it. We talk about pre-framing a lot, and it almost pre-frames it into, this is going to be a conversation with you just agreeing with that I'm awesome because I'm telling you that I'm awesome, rather than actually having a conversation between two people that have amazing things to contribute to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of I people out there, and it's interesting talking to them when we infuse our curiosity with them. It's a good thing because they do come around as well and start to relax a little bit in the way that they voice things and the way they talk. And quite often I find it encourages them to then reciprocate and start to be curious themselves and ask questions back. And I see that a lot where I'm talking to someone who might be a bit of an I person. I've done this and I've done that. And if there's a bit of a pause in the conversation, quite often I see a shift and they may come back with, so tell me, what do you think, or what have you seen? Or they come with a curious question, and that just blows the gates right off, and you're off and running, and that really can promote a great conversation from there. So you can work around it, and you can encourage people to become a curious type of person. I think you can anyway.
Yeah, curiosity breeds curiosity.
Yeah, it does. How do you find being curious in a workplace type scenario? So in a business sense, working with new clients or established clients, what are your tips and what do you think about that sense of curiosity? Let's look at, in a coaching perspective and how we deal with our people, how beneficial do you think it is to instill this, to have them become curious with their clients when we're training business people?
Oh, it's paramount. And whether it be in business or whether it be personal, curiosity is really important for me to have a better conversation, because let's take business, for example. If you're in business and you're trying to, get your product across the line and have people engage with you, you need to find out what makes them need your product. Because if you then build the relationship around the person and their needs, you know how to better service it, and you know how to better say, may I make a suggestion? This product might actually help with what you're looking for. So rather than pushing a product, you're actually engaging with the client so that they pull the product towards them and that you have a better conversation. Relationships are the key, whether it be personal or whether it be professional. Whether you're a CEO, whether you're a team leader, whether you're the janitor, get curious about asking people. Unfortunately, and this is big in the leadership space at the moment too, there's so many leaders and management that take themselves out of the relationship arena for people that work around them. A lot of people get stuck in the label of their position rather than remembering that they are just one part of the cog, and you're only as strong as the weakest link in your team. So if you're not fostering great relationships around knowing that your teammates, because you're all essentially teammates regardless of where you sit in a company, if you're not building those relationships to know how you can support the person, how do you then expect to support the workplace if that person's got other things going on in their world? You've got to have that insight, and you really do need to have that emotional intelligence around seeing the person so that you can help them get the best out of them.
Yeah. Insight's a great word. We, Aljo and I, as you know, out there, we are high performance coaches. And one thing we talk about in our high performance is not getting people in their version of high performance, is in there running around like their tail's on fire, and they're doing everything and in a hurry and a rush and getting massive KPIs. And a lot of our high performance is also built on creating sustainable relationships with your subordinates, with people on your level, and also people that you upward relate to, which is your higher management, exec teams, or if you're at that level already, people that you are accountable and reportable to, like could be board members or even external stakeholders. The relationship side of it is so important in becoming a leader. And we do talk about the differences of being a leader and a manager, where leadership is just so important, especially in business these days. I worked for a guy many years ago, and we did touch on this earlier, you and I, LJ, where he would always walk in to talk to his external stakeholders, and he didn't say anything about himself for the first 5 or 10 minutes. Very rarely would he say I, unless he was asked a question of, what did you do today? Or blah, blah. He'd say, oh, I did this. And then he'd go back to making it all about the client, made the client felt they belonged and they were welcome and they were part of it. And it was curiosity and questions and including the client to give them the sense that they're important and they're valued, instead of walking in, I want this and I would like that, which it diminished the rapport between the two and the relationship wasn't as good. And I used to marvel at this guy. He would sit there 5 to 10 minutes and not even involve himself in the conversation at all, which was great. And then when he was happy with the level of rapport, he would then turn around with the best question and say, what can I do for you today?
Absolutely. And you know that I've been in different executive levels and across
Yeah,
companies with my experience. If I can share, one of the things that I like to come across, and sorry, I'll just use the I word, but for me as a person in that position, it wasn't that I was better at anybody else. It just meant that I was given a responsibility. And from that perspective, I would always turn around to any one of my team and go, what do you need from me today that I can help you do your job better? How can I serve you? And I think that when we go through the management structure, especially because we are given that position of authority, for want of a better word, we forget that service actually begins in the internal structures. So and it flows through to the external structures. If you're having sales concerns, maybe it's because you're not actually servicing the people in your organisation that are responsible for sales.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that relationship building and teach your team how to build a relationship within the structure, how do you then teach them how to build a relationship and a rapport? Rapport is probably the better word. A rapport with the client that gets curious to say, how are you going today? What's happening in your world? What can I do to help you? Is there anything else you need? It's the McDonald's theory, you know, do you need fries with that?
Yeah.
Is there anything else I can get for you today?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, absolutely. I know with a guy rang me a few years ago. He was heading into a meeting in a country town, and he had about 2 hours before he got there, and he knew that the client he was dealing with was a little bit prickly, and he struggled with rapport with this guy, and it was an important contract that he had to sign. So he rang me on the way and said, Dave, I just need your help. I need you to help me. I don't know how I'm going to do this because I think he won't sign the contract, and it needs to be signed. It's going to benefit both of us, but I think he won't do it. What can I do here? So I said to him, and I took a page out of this other guy's book that I used to work for years and years ago. He came to mind, and I modelled off him, and we can, with another podcast, modelling. So I said, okay, for the first 5 or 10 minutes, make it all about him, serve him, be curious, ask about things outside the business side of life. Ask what he did on the weekend and how his morning was, and just curious questions. What's something you did this morning that really put a smile on your face?
Yeah.
Create that rapport with him.
Yes.
You will eventually get to the contract instead of walking in, putting on the table, here's a contract, this is going to benefit us both, can you please sign? The rapport is almost non-existent. You've seen from this guy previously, he's a little bit prickly, so let's work on that. So try and avoid the eyes and be curious and ask about him and make him feel like he deserves to be there, just like you, and create that relationship.
Get curious about the person in front of you, not just the deal on the table.
100%. So it's relationship based. So he did, and he walked in and he didn't mention I for 5 minutes or 7 minutes, and they actually had a great conversation about things outside the business and talked about more personal matters, but it bonded, and the relationship was starting to take off. And it was great. So from there, he was honest, as we always promote everyone to be. We have a contract here. I'd love to spend some time with you to go through it bit by bit. I'm in no hurry. We can take as long as we like, but I'd love a coffee. I'll go get you a coffee. And this is a guy who would never offer tea or coffee, and I'll get you a coffee. Oh, fantastic. Thanks, mate. So they had a coffee. So the rapport is building. The relationship is building. So even before they've discussed anything to do with a contract or signing anything, it's pretty much done.
Yeah.
So then the contract is there. This is what it is. Let me lead you through it. Jump in. If you have any queries at all, jump in at any time. I've got no issue with that because we'll work it out together.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're unity, they're together. No worries. He rang me on the way home and he said, Dave, it was the best meeting I've ever had. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I said, well, no, you did it. You did the hard work, which is what we do in coaching. We get everyone to do the heavy lifting. You did the hard yards. Congratulations, that was great. How did you feel about it? Tell me what come up in you. Did you feel like you were cheating him? Did you feel like you were trying to get him to do something he didn't want to do? Or he said, absolutely not. It was transparent. It was honest. We had a relationship.
Yep.
We both agreed on everything. We went through bit by bit. And as soon as I said, we'll go through it together, and I have no time limits here, let's just put the coffee on and sort it out, the whole meeting changed.
Yeah.
And he's invited me back again.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really
And
fantastic.
just over a quick conversation over a phone. And that was not talking about business acumen. We weren't talking about how to improve your business or scale your business or increase your profits every quarter. We just talked about the basic stages of creating a relationship within the business. And that alone, this guy, I would guess, hopefully would go to other people and say, yep, I met with, I won't name him, I met with so-and-so. He was great. And suddenly you've got goodwill, which helps increase your profits. You've got rapport. You've got people talking about you, free advertising. It expands so many aspects of your business just purely based on creating a relationship. I thought that was a good one for him to, because he was a bit nervous about, how do I do this? I don't know what to do. What do I say? Be yourself.
It's great that he had the curiosity to actually ask for help.
Yeah.
And to get more perspective. We all have seen those, I don't know, memes or sayings that go around that it's not about your money, your bank account, your clothing. It's about how you make people feel.
Yeah.
And how you can have better conversations on a deeper level by just asking great questions and being curious about the person standing in front of you. Showing up, we're going to just link so many of our podcasts here, but showing up with an authenticity to say, I really want to know what's going on in your world, and because I want to know, not because you have something that I want.
There's a difference in that.
There's a huge difference in that, and it's an energy as well.
Yeah.
People know. I mean, we all get the telemarketer phone calls, and you just know it, even if you don't see the number, you know it. And I'm never rude to a telemarketer because they're just doing a job. I always say, thank you so much for calling, but please respect my privacy. Don't call again and take me off the list.
Yeah.
But I wish you well in your endeavours because I think that that's important if you're going to reject somebody. But being curious around asking questions, I think it was a couple of podcasts ago, we set a challenge around ask how a person is 10 different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a great way to open how to get curious about saying to someone, what's going on in your world today? Let's see if we can rattle some off. So we got, look, what's going on in your world today? The basic one, how are you?
Yeah.
Tell me something that's going great for you. What else could you come up with? I'm trying to think of 10 we can give our listeners to go through.
I like to flip things as well. So I do say to people, because it generates great conversation, tell me something today right now that's challenging you.
That's a good one.
And then you can build from that. So, well, today the guy was going to come and fix my fence because I have a hole in my fence and he didn't turn up at 9 o'clock. Okay, so from that, you can build on being curious to the point where, okay, is it going to really affect your whole day? Oh, not really. So today's pretty cool. Yeah, it is. Okay, epic. And there's so many questions you can ask. They don't have to be all positive or how do you feel? You can ask so many questions that can have beginning of a negative connotation, and when you get people to expand their awareness and go, well, you know what, it's not that bad today, there's other things coming up that are going to be epic, and you can inspire that, people generally walk away a little bit taller, their shoulders are back, their head's high.
Yeah, because it's been a great interaction where you've actually seen the person in front of you and not just seen the activity or the benchmark. We all get labelled with benchmarks these days.
We do.
So let me ask you.
Here we go.
Come up with 3 different ways that you like to ask people how they are.
Let me think. So instead of just saying, how are you?
Yep, 3 different ways.
3 different ways.
I'm curious to know what's in your tool bag around how you say to somebody, hi, how are you? But without actually, that's rehearsing that statement for 10 times a day.
I use the word epic. I love the word epic. I can't help it. It's in my vocabulary. I ask a lot of people.
You and 4-letter words.
Yeah, I know. It's just the good 4-letter words.
The good 4-letter words, of course.
So I do say to people that I meet, even new people that I haven't met before, tell me something you've done today so far that's epic.
Yeah.
and you see their eyebrows raise, and they have to think about it, but it gets them thinking.
Yep. So that's one.
That's one. That's epic. Instead of how I do say what's going on in your life a lot. So, hey, how you doing? What's going on in your life? And once again, there's pauses and eyebrows, and that's a common one for me.
Yeah.
It just means how are you? But it's a good way that gets people thinking about what's going on in your life.
What's one more?
A third one you want to say, why did you make 3? 2's so easy. You're going to stretch me here.
Because you love challenge.
I love a challenge. So a third one, when I ask people how they are, I'll be honest. I'll be honest and I'll be raw because I do. There's a shout out to a friend of mine. I'm going to send this to him. He lives in Germany. And his name's Will. And I met Will 20 plus years ago when he was travelling around Australia with his now wife. And I caught up with him at a campsite, and it was pouring rain. It was wind is blowing sideways, and they were not doing very well. So I said, come and stay in my campsite down on the water near Wilson's Prom. And we formed a great relationship to this day. And he's such a lovely guy, and his wife, they've got a beautiful son. They're doing really well. So we sat in my camper van area with my setup, which is not too bad. And he said to me, can you give me some Aussie slang that I can take away with me and I can use? I said, no worries. I said, one of them, what a lot of Aussies say is, how's it hanging? And he said, I don't understand. I said, well, there's a lot of talk around this. But
that's really mean.
how's it hanging? And you'll see anywhere you go through Australia, g'day mate, how's it hanging? Which is like, how are you? And generally, most Aussies, 99% of Aussies know what it means, how's it hanging?
Is that a boy thing?
Yeah, it's a boy thing. So he had this napkin, and we talk about writing things on napkins.
We love napkins.
We do napkin sessions at coffee shops and playing stuff on napkins. Will brought out a napkin because we were having a barbecue, and he wrote down about 10 different Aussie phrases, and one of them was, how's it hanging? So I said, you want to walk into a shop and you want to ask for something, and just walk in and go, g'day mate, how's it hanging? And he goes, okay. So he did. He walked into this shop when they were leaving the campsite, and he got a meat pie or something, and he walked in his lovely German accent and, g'day mate, how's it hanging? And and yeah, he got a bit of a strange look, but that's another way that I do ask people, and I target people. If I read them and look at them, but for me, it's an easy way of a quick report. G'day mate, how's it hanging?
Yeah.
And yeah, pretty good. And that's another way that I do ask people. That's an Aussie thing. So for people listening overseas, there's a lot to this, and I'll probably get LJ to explain exactly what it means one day instead of me. But it does mean, how you going? How are you? And that's very common. And I think maybe
those
the younger,
good ways.
Yeah, the younger generation probably don't use the slang as much as we did.
No, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay, because I really appreciate that they're 3 very different openers that will just cater for anybody.
Yeah.
Another one I love to ask people is, what do you do when you're not here? If you're talking to a shop assistant, it's about phrasing your questions, not to be nosy, but just to show that you're seeing somebody as not just a shop assistant, not just a coffee person, not just a checkout lady or a guy pushing trolleys. They're people. We forget that people are people, and they're just doing their jobs like we are.
Yeah. I love the coffee shop analogies, because I'm just thinking back when we've gone to coffee shops, and one of us, you or I, have said the same thing to the wonderful person behind the counter, and we've always nominated the day, and we've said, how's your Friday going?
Yes.
We do that a lot.
We do.
And we get great responses from that. We isolate the day, or we isolate the time. How's your morning going? How's your afternoon going? And the good thing about it is it takes them to the exact moment of that time where maybe in the morning something didn't work out for them, which is, caused a little bit of angst, but they're now present in the afternoon. So how's your afternoon going? Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
And that can help as well for people to isolate them and bring them back to the present where things are going pretty well.
Yeah.
as opposed to, okay, well, I dropped an egg on the floor at breakfast time and broke an egg before I got a chance to cook it. I had to wipe it up and whatever. Bring them back to the present. How's your afternoon going?
Yeah. So if I can flip it, because that's a great perspective, just on that note of when something does go wrong in your world.
Yep.
If I can flip it, if somebody's asking you how your day is and you haven't had the best, rather than sit in the uncomfortable nature of the day not going great,
Yep.
start to try and reframe it for yourself around, actually, my day's progressing. My day's getting better. My day is on its way up. We have both got some amazing people in our space that when you say, how's your day going? Or what's new? And they go, I'm unstoppable. I'm flawless. I'm flawsome. Yeah. They have these amazing little power words that they use to just set their mindset around what is happening in their world so that it keeps them at a level of just looking forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. And I totally agree with you with that one. When we have people that we've coached that, and you would have seen people out in the public as well, when you say to someone, how's your day going? And they've had a pretty crappy day.
You hear it all, don't you?
Yes.
They tip the bucket on you.
They go into specifics.
And that's okay. I can have a bucket tipped on me because you and I are great at reframing for people. But can I just say, if your bucket's full on that day, please don't tip your bucket on everybody, because everybody's got a bucket. It's okay to unload, but really, perfect strangers don't really want to know that you've just about to drown them with a bucket of cold water.
If you tip the bucket,
but that's part of curiosity, I guess, too, is knowing that if someone's not,
correct. If you tip the bucket on someone, you're taking yourself back to each single event, which can also take you back to feeling how you felt at the time it actually happened. Whereas other people that have had either coaching or they've had their own awareness, and I've come across a lot of people like, they've had a bad morning. How was your day? Oh, it wasn't overly fantastic, but as you said earlier,
it's getting
better. They haven't gone into specifics. They've whitewashed it. It wasn't that flash this morning, but it's okay.
Yeah. And I think if we get back to curiosity opens doors, when we, regardless of what happens in our space, when we come from that curious perspective, we can also start to think about better ways of communicating with people that keep the conversation moving forward to a better state, rather than sitting in the puddle, in the wet, in the rain, and just going, I'm sitting in a puddle. Well, there's an umbrella beside you. There's always an alternative. If we're curious enough to really actually ask somebody questions, or even ask ourselves questions, get curious about your own space, but most importantly, get curious to actually connect with people, because it's all about people.
Get your pen and paper out, because that's another podcast.
That is another podcast.
We say it all the time. And I do want to unpack in another podcast how we talk to ourselves and have our own conversations and ask ourselves our own questions and be curious with ourselves, which helps us reframe, helps us understand where we're at, helps us motivate, avoid procrastination. There's a whole...
I'm just laughing because as you said that, how do we do things? I'm hearing circus music in my head, which it's just representative of my world, but that's okay.
I just had a mental picture. Anyway, that's okay. So let's go next level, LJ. Let's go one level up. So the guy I worked with a while ago that was awesome when he turned around to our external stakeholders and said, what can I do for you today? Mm-hmm. Let's go one level up. So one thing I loved about what he did, and it all ties, this is way before I was a coach, and he did it beautifully. He still instilled his boundaries, or the boundaries of what he could achieve or what he could do, or the boundaries of his business. So what can I do for you today? He established rapport. He had a chat. He had great conversations. And then, what can I do for you today? I would like you to do X. And if it was achievable within his boundaries and what he could do, absolutely, I'm happy to do it, and let's do it together. If it was something that was unrealistic, couldn't be done, outside the possibilities, he was also very honest with that.
Yeah, and that's important too.
Correct. So he still had his boundaries in place. And you can do this in business, and you can do this in your personal life as well. Mm-hmm. So he would say, that's something I don't think we can achieve. Straight out. Oh, really? definitely not today. I'll look into it. I'll make some calls. I'll do some figures. I'll figure it out. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call. But it's about asking the right questions, isn't it?
Of course it is. Of course it is.
So get curious, everybody.
You've got to get curious. But the curiosity comes back in, if I can't do this for you because of A, B, and C, what else would it look like if you had this result? There's still curiosity. There's still questions. It's still working on strategy. It's still working on possibilities. It's still working on options instead of, I can't do this. Sorry, I've got to go. By the way, here's my bill.
It's actually handing back the opportunity for people, because we all know that when we've got decisions and deadlines and we can get a little bit narrow in our focus, when we open up with those kind of curious questions around what else, it helps us take the blinkers off, and it helps us see a meta perspective of things that possibly we hadn't considered or hadn't thought of. So that's a really good point. I love that.
Yeah.
So what are we going to challenge this week? We always love to set our beautiful listeners a challenge.
Yep.
Do you want to come up with a challenge?
So the challenge for this week, I would like for our listeners to, the rapport will take care of itself if you start to be curious. Because people love being involved, they like to engage, and they like to chat generally. So get out of your own head and make it about the person you're with, whether you're in business or whether you're doing it personally. Start to be curious about the other person and avoid, even for 5 minutes, avoid talking about yourself and see how it goes. And please send us an email or get in touch with us at Coach Talk. Give it a go, even if you want to do it with a friend or someone you know, just for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. When you say, "G'day, how are you? How's your day been so far?" And then go, start being curious, ask a few questions, and the answers they give you should create other questions for you or other insights, and you can just, it becomes a whole spider web from there.
Or other opportunities to just engage and ask another beautiful question.
Absolutely. So I think it's a pretty easy challenge.
It's a good challenge. Can I add to that maybe?
You can add everything.
I would love to know people's favourite questions.
Wow. I've got one question now. I'm going to give everyone my gold nugget for the day, which they can use in their questioning. This one question I've used countless times. It is probably the best question I've ever asked anybody. I love it, and I use it a lot. Mm-hmm. It's great in business, and it's great when you're developing personal relationships with people. It doesn't matter what you're talking about, but it's a question I ask a little bit down the track, maybe 2 or 3 minutes into something, to gauge where they're at.
I'm curious. What is your question?
Yeah, so the question is, what does that look like for you?
Oh, that's a great question.
What does it look like for you?
Paint me a picture.
Yeah, so in business, someone says, "I was hoping to do this." That's fantastic. I love the way you're thinking. What does it look like for you?
That's a great question.
In personal life.
That's a good gold nugget. I hope somebody's written that one down, and we'll put that one up as the first favourite question for the week.
What does it look like for you? And in personal life, it's the same sort of thing. I was hoping to do this in 6 months' time and go on a trip or save some money for. What does it look like for you?
That's a really great question. Thank you for the share.
There's the nugget.
So
amazing. You've got a challenge, you've got a nugget, you've got all sort of stuff. So that's about it. Anything you want to add for our podcast?
Other than, who can we shout out to this week? We're going to shout out to beautiful Tilly.
Oh, Tilly.
And Ebony and her other half. We met at one of the events we were at.
A little while ago, yeah.
So just to say big hello to you two beautiful souls. Love being around you and the energy that you bring to the spaces that we're in.
I love doing the shout outs. I think it's great. And the more we go along, the more people we're meeting, and we just say, you know what, it's good to see you. We'll do a shout out to you next podcast. Oh, really?
Yeah.
And we do. So we shout out. So, yep, Tilly, Ebony and crew, guys, you rock. We loved meeting you, and we'll just keep doing shout outs as we go.
Absolutely.
So,
have a
Coach
great week.
Talk. Whereabouts are we? Coach Talk, our website?
Coach Talk. coachtalk.com.au. Oh my goodness. And Facebook, YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify, we're everywhere.
We're all there. Insta, we're all there. You know, every podcast, I love it when I spring it on you and say, so where's their website? And I just love it. I think I'll do that every single. You love it too.
Thank you so much. Have a great week,
You're
everyone.
so welcome. And thanks, LJ. And everyone have a great week, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Bye.
Bye now.